I'm going to show you how to make 90s style R&B with a good bit of 90s ambient, smooth jazz influence. So a bit of the old Paul Hardcastle touch. Let's jump into things. Now, as y'all can imagine, the goal of this tune was to use just one synthesizer for all my sounds, including the drums, and we went with the Korg Triton or the Triton Extreme here. A fantastic synth, if you've watched my channel, incredibly versatile, and so I'm going to show you guys how I used just this synth today. We're going to start off with the drums here. Now, the Triton and a lot of romplers have drum kits actually built in. So if you go into Program, Browse, and then go into Drums here, there's an endless amount of drum kits in here for different genres, house music, R&B, hip-hop, jungle, all sorts of cool stuff in here. Now, editing the actual drum kits in the Triton, it's a bit of a pain, but if you're interested in how to create your own drum kits in the Triton, check out this video. I'll link up above where I go in very in depth on how to manage drum kits in the Triton. But basically the way it works is when you bring up a drum kit program within here, every key on your keyboard has a drum sound assigned to it. And then you just trigger the different drum sounds via MIDI. Now, all the effects for the drum kits are baked into the Triton as well. So if I go into easy mode here, or I go IFX, MFX, you'll see we have a delay and a reverb. In reverb, a nice smooth haul, so important for these R&B type drums. So taking things like the hi-hats, snares, and sending those to a reverb, super important. Now, if we look at the MIDI here, as mentioned in the drum kits, every key corresponds to some type of drum sound. So kick drum, hi-hat, this a little bit of a snare block sound there. Very nice soft R&B type sound. You could go for a straight snare within here, but I think this type of sound is a little more soft into a big reverb, just fits the mood. Great. And we have that little shaker sound up at the top here, and this is the beat. And we have some variations here. So there's this next one. All right, so these hats here, very steady, da, 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 kind of keeping a nice rhythm. And then near the end of it, we just do a quick da, da, and play with the velocities there. So velocity, super important when you're working with drum kits like this. You can just introduce a lot of feel into the song by playing with the velocity. And so you'll see all these different drum hits within here, they have different velocities set up. And so this is kind of the core intro beat. And then we have this little piece here where we take out some of these hats going into the next phrase. Right? That hat, that snare sound right at the end. It kind of leads you into the start of the next phrase there. Now, in the core song, once we get through the intro, we've beefed up the pattern a little bit, pretty much kind of the same. The only difference here is our hi-hats right here in the middle. You know, we're doing that steady da, 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 da. And then we do two quick hits in succession, played with the velocity there. And the other thing we have is the mark tree up top, hitting right on the one. Classic R&B sound. You got to put a mark tree in your song. If you don't, what are you doing? Then we have this next phrase here. So we have this shaker sound up at the top here. Just have a little bit of MIDI in here, playing around with the notes and the velocities, as you can see. Just trying to get some nice groove, some nice feel on there. And this is pretty much the core drum pattern in the main song. And then in a couple points in the song, we have a bit of a turnaround as well before it goes into the next phrase. So kind of like this. And those are the drums. All right, next thing we have here, just a very basic bass from the Triton. This is the dark R&B bass. Looks like it's a FM sound layered up with a sine wave. And with this, we're just playing the root note of the chords here. Very sparse throughout the song. I didn't want like this big, funky walking bass that's doing some crazy, funky lick. I just wanted a nice underpinning doop doop throughout the song, right? And so with the bass, here's the MIDI notes with the drums. Very basic, very simple, but it leaves a lot of room for all the other elements. If you have this big funky bass, it changes the feel of the song, makes it a little more upbeat. That's not what we want. That's not what we want, rather. In this instance, I just want things laid back, chill, very basic bass there. Things don't always have to be super complicated. All right, next thing we have here is this electric piano sound from the Triton. This is the Vintage EP. Very nice sound there. And you'll see the lick we're playing here is our root notes, a G sharp. And then we go up to a C sharp. As we fade out of that G sharp, like we're holding it pretty long, quick visit to C sharp 2, and then back down, leading right into it. And so you'll see down here the chord device that I'm using. Basically what happens is when I play one key, it plays a full chord. In this chord device, it's essentially saying, hey, when I press a G sharp 1, take that first note, transpose it down -12. The next note in there, transpose it up +12 from the root note. The next note up +7. It lets you play chords with one note. Every DAW has something similar to this. It's a great way for morons and idiots like me who don't actually know how to play music to be able to, crank something that may resemble somewhat of a song out. But that is kind of like the core thing there. So if we solo all this together. And with that EP there, there's a good bit of sustain on it, but it fades out very slowly and drops in volume. And so we hold out this long note here, and as it fades away, it leaves room, for the drums, that little shuffly bit there. It's very clear, right? Right, so creating space in the mix for the other elements to shine, and that's how we do things. Now you're gonna need some type of belly type sound here. This is the hybrid bell patch. Cliche 90s sound there. A lot of these bell mallet sounds in the Triton. And with that, we're just playing a little bit of some MIDI notes within here. I don't know if you guys can see all these here, but just playing a bit of a lick and layering that up with everything before. So if we solo it all together. That's what you get. You gotta put one in. All right, next thing we have is the high string. I love high strings. High strings in genres like house, drum and bass, but especially R&B create this like really nice underlying tension and almost fill in the gaps kind of similar to a pad. And so I like to bring in a high string, play it high up in pitch, and put it in the back of the song, right? Like very subtle. You notice it's there, but it's not way up in the mix. And then the way I bring that in is I fade in the volume through automation, because you don't want that string just to have a quick attack. All of a sudden it's bing. You want it to fade in. We're trying to be smooth here. So we fade that in the arrangement, and then we give it a long tail here going into the next phrase and slowly fade it out because we don't want it to just suddenly cut off. So this is what we get if we layer that all up together. All right, next up, we got this other lead sound. It's the hip hop lead here. If we look at this one, it is a sawtooth wave and a sine wave. Little bit of portamento on there. Really great sound. It's almost like very Moogish, you know, which you'd hear in a lot of R&B, smooth jazz type things as well. And this is just playing a lead here too. So we solo everything we've looked at so far. Playing with the velocities. Right, there's my terrible, I don't know how to play music, lick there. And so again, with everything, all these instruments and MIDI, we're constantly going in, tweaking the velocity in here. I do like to record things in live and then go back, you know, pull some things around, cut some things off. Even if you are not a great musician, I still highly encourage you to try to play some of these things in live. You can always go back and tweak it. That's the power of MIDI. All right, next thing we have as we lean more into the ambient nature of this song. So I was trying to combine, you know, late 90s R&B with a little bit of just general ambient, smooth jazz, Paul Hardcastle-esque. And so I love nice, airy vocal pads. And a vocal pad is just a soft pad that typically uses some type of vocal as the oscillator in here. Beautiful sounding pad there, very soft, very light, have it fanned out super wide, playing the same chord as the electric piano. In this one, we're also fading in with automation, the volume of it, because I want it to come in, kind of creep in, start to fill in and seep into the gaps of the rest of the mix as it's evolving. So that's what we did with the vocal pad there. If we solo everything we have so far, see, it's very subtle in the mix. It's to me, it feels like, I kind of talked about it a second ago, it's like seeping, the air is seeping into the gaps in the mix and just makes it a bit more full, a little more like weightless feeling. Great sound there, and that's what we got. All right, next up, we got this thing here. It is a bell mallet sound, and I'm just using this to reinforce key parts of the song later in. And so you'll see here in the MIDI, it's just a very quick note here, but I stacked it up with the other elements in the song so that it creates this moment of like an impact. I'm almost using it as like an exclamation mark at a certain period of the song, creates a little more variation, creates some ambience, but also just sounds very nice. So if we solo all this stuff together. Right, so coming off the tail end of the bass, chord switch here, and then we're hitting that first beginning chord again, and then we get that exclamation point with this bell sound here. It's really nice, like dual purpose sonic element in the song. Add some layers, add some ambience, and just add some good feel to the song. All right, so continuing a few more ambient elements within here. Back in the Korg Triton, I'm in combi mode here. This is a patch from my preset pack, link in the description. If you're interested, it has a ton of great ambient combinations like this, but this is what it sounds like. Some nice ambient wispiness in here, and so I'm kind of bringing that in. You'll see in the MIDI here at various points to build up that atmospheric bed. So if I solo everything together, again, very subtle. You know, on the beat here, we hear that little exclamation bell sound, and then we kind of catch the tail end of this ambient sound directly after. So it's kind of just a nice placement of sound so that things flow a little more smoothly and make cohesive sense. So that's what we have there. Last thing we have, this wouldn't be an ambient influence song if we didn't have some type of bird, bug, soundscape sound effect. This is the birds and bugs patch here, which is, as you guessed, birds and bugs. And so we just bring that in towards the end here, and we have everything together. And that's kind of it, folks. So the way I structured this too was I tried to make the first half here a little more traditional R&B, and then the second half here, you know, I tried to put some of that more ambient influence into the song here, just to see if I could make it work, and this is what we ended up with. Last thing I'd call out here, I'm using a reverb here, a convolution reverb, and I actually have a impulse response from the MIDI Verb 2, I believe, loaded into here. And I'm sending some of these elements you can see to that reverb as a send to create a nice cohesive space to kind of lift up and create that general ambience. And that's about it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, maybe not straight pure 90s R&B. I tried to, you know, take influences from a few different areas, but you know, hopefully you guys found this video useful, helpful, inspiring. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see a video on next. Have a good one.